All right, we are recording. Continuing in the omnibus here, Salvage PI, which I think I'm not certain, but I think was in one of the Rippazines, which would that makes sense because the cover art at the end here is labeled Rippazine #1, regular edition cover. So there's that. It's also rather short, which I'm happy about because hopefully this video won't be over an hour long. I do kind of want to get to sleep. Yeah, so Salvage PI. Eric July writer, Bart Sears artist, Jay Brown colorist, Eric Weathers letterer, Andrew Rodriguez lead editor. And I do actually want to talk about the art when getting into this. It definitely does have a different style, I think, than what I've been seeing. Oh, I didn't even notice that before. The Maltese Falcon is in the background there. But yeah, it is a different style of art, but I'm good with it. I kind of like it, and there's also one panel that I really like that, and it makes sense with this style. But anyway, I'll get to that. Let me read the introduction. The affluent city of Flores Park, Texas, is not bereft of crime, and the threat of criminals possessing except abilities is a very real one. This is an acknowledgement. This isn't truly a criticism. I don't like this acceptabilities terminology here because it's bordering on, it isn't, but it's getting near to being redundant. Where it's like, cause if it's said possessing human abilities, it's like, no, that we all have those, whatever. So if it's possessing abilities in the context of comic books with superheroes and such, oh, okay, super abilities, got it. If it says with except criminals, then it's like, okay, they have abilities. But saying except abilities, it's like, it's getting close to where it's like, you don't really need to say this, do you? And that's both anyway. Anyhow. But not all, it's not wrong, which is why it's just an acknowledgement. But I do want to acknowledge it. But not all crimes are caused by giant walking, talking barbecues or denizens of the underworld. And for cases that don't call for flying super cops or superpowered vigilantes to be solved, there's one man whom private citizens can go to who always has his ear, it's bolded, so yeah, to the streets. Salvage PI. It is indicated at least a couple panels. They seems to have super hearing, so it does seem he is an except himself. Just not a super cop, a flying super cop, or a superpowered vigilante. He's just somebody with a better sense than others. So I guess, because yeah, why not relate this back to stuff I've written? It's kind of meant as a joke. I mean, there's also some that aren't, that are kind of new that. But in The Children of Gifts, there's a joke about this one guy who, what is his super ability? What's his special ability? If he looks at something, he can tell you, like, the count of anything. So if he looks at like, a park, he can tell you, just look, and he knows exactly how many blades of grass are there. It's useless. He acknowledges this. It's like, what good is this? It's not like they do the whole how many gumballs are in the fish tank kind of thing to win a prize. They don't do, it's like nobody does that anymore, so I can't even do that. But it's still, it's like, it doesn't mean it can't come in handy. It's just it seems kind of useless. But it's also that for me, there's a reason for that. It's not just the humor of it. It is also one of the rules that I have is that every ability is unique. Now, that can still mean that the difference is subtle. So, for example, later on, we do meet two people that are technically immortal. One heals from anything. So, like if you were to cut off his hand, he would regrow his hand. He would need to consume food to replace that mass, but it's still, he could do that. Although, actually, his ability is so strong that it would actually heal, even as you're just cutting across to cut off the hand or cut off a finger, it would just heal and reattach itself while going. But anyway, then there's another that, no, if you actually were to try to do that, it would just seal back up. The wound would seal back up. That she is locked in a state. And there's so it's also like if you were to cut her, the blood may come out, but it would then just flow right back in. So two ways that you technically have somebody who is impervious to illness or injury Technically, they are immortal as well, but achieved in different ways. So the whole it being unique does also mean then that in order to that there would also be those kind of useless seeming abilities as well, because those would exist, because I can't have everyone being the same thing. They all have to be variants, and they why not also have the silly ones? So it all kind of feeds into that. So it does make sense that Salvage here isn't except just the ability itself is more subtle. Anyway, let me finish this. A marked increase in the theft of luxury goods smells like corporate sabotage, and Salvage sounds like just the man for the job. But has this private investigator gotten in over his head? I was confused by this. How do you get from theft of luxury goods to corporate sabotage? Because that could just be a robber that's breaking into wealthy homes and stealing good stuff. That's not corporate sabotage. So what? But fortunately, we turn the page, get into it, and no, it's a trucking company that they're being robbed, and they primarily transport luxury goods. Like, oh, okay, that's a completely different context. And this is kind of more of an acknowledgement than a criticism, but it's a little annoying that it's like we see one of the robberies right away, so it's like, oh, so we already kind of know what's going on here. I don't know. I just, it's kind of nice to have mysteries where, we don't know who, we don't know why, so there's still mystery here, but it's kind of nice when, say, you don't know anything going on until they walk into the office, kind of thing. But yeah, so in theory, it's no. This isn't set up in a way that this is like the story is being relayed to him. But anyhow, dude comes to him. I thought it had said at one point, but as I was looking through it again, yeah, it's the dude coming to him. It's not clear if who this is in regards to the trucking company. We do have one thing here that I do find odd, because I do have one question for you. What is it with this license to kill business? That's a wrong interpretation. Nobody has a license to kill, but Flores Park issues a special license to qualified private investigators. So long as I'm justified and on contract, I'm permitted to use lethal force. It took several years to obtain such an honor. Most don't bother to go through the rigorous training. I believe there are 3 of us, and our permits are only recognized within the city-state. I find this stupid, because justification is justification. The training is good. I'm fully in support of that. And it's like, yeah, sure, that's not dumb. That's not stupid. But it's justification is justification. The training is to help you recognize when the justification is present. The training would help you recognize when there are other alternatives. Because that is one thing that, sometimes, like police officer training, my understanding is with some of that, you're also being trained how to respond to things in other ways. That, the gun is supposed to be a last resort. The training helps you push that away. So the last resort is further away. You have other options. You have other tools you can use first. And it's like, so that makes sense. But it's like, if I'm justified, it's like, well, if they're shooting at you, you're justified. That has nothing to do with license. That's just with any kind of license or qualification. That has to do with, you have a right to self-defense. And if I'm on contract, it's like, again, that shouldn't play into this. Unless this is it's like, if I just come across a guy and just, execute him. It's like, that would be different. That would be very different. But that's not what is being described here. Well, at least it isn't clear that that's what's going on here. Because I'm like, in James Bond, those movies, yes, all the double O's, he's just 7, have license to kill. And in Dr. No, you straight up see him murder a guy. It wasn't necessary, but he felt he should. He made the judgment and decided to do that. And it's like, okay, that's the kind of license to kill there, where it's like he is making the judgment to do that. Is that what Salvage is saying he has here? I don't know. That's not clear. But that's very different from just if, then you're like, oh, if I'm being shot at, it's like, then you shoot back. But no, it's killing spans such a wide spectrum. Because you can kill in self-defense, and you can also, like in Dr. No, just murder somebody. And it's like, that's all the way over here, that small number of them. Is Howard saying he has that he's a 00? Or is it just I've been trained properly, so if I kill somebody while working, the police will basically be like, well, yeah, I mean, we have to investigate, but we're more likely to believe that you were justified. So it's, I'm just trying to think of the right term, but it'd almost be like the evidentiary standard would be different for him. So yeah, it's, I don't know. It is unclear here. If it is just it's like James Bond, then it's like, okay, state that. As opposed to just, as long as I'm justified and on contract, I'm permitted to use lethal force. It's like, you already are allowed to do that if the situation calls for it. Justification is justification. What's the point here? It's, yeah. Anyway, so it even says, I'd already looked over the case. I have a lead. But I like to look my clients in the eye, which, I'm good with that. That makes sense. Oh, by the way, there's actually in the background of his office, he has a Maltese Falcon statue, which I'm good with that. But it's also, now's a fair time to talk about the art style, because it is different. It's, I don't know what the proper terms are. I'm not a comic book guy. But it seems a bit more on, I'm going to say it, I know some people, I know that there are some people who might interpret what I'm saying as insulting. I do not mean that way. It seems more scratchy, but not in a bad way. What I mean is, it's like, instead of, okay, I'm going to, color in all the thing here. No, it's like, and you still get the same visual effect, because that's just how the style is. It's more like that, and I'm good with that. I've got nothing wrong with that. But there's also, while looking at some of these panels, this may sound weird, and I'm not saying this is bad at all, but it does seem different from the earlier stories. They seem kind of static, which would be good for this, actually, because it implies deliberation. That's like, it's static. This is just what's there. So it's like there's time. There's lingering time here. It's not everyone's, moving around. We're going from here to here. No, it's stillness. And so there's control. There's intent. So I do actually like that. It makes sense for this, because you'd expect a PI should be more cerebral, should be more so resting and thinking. Well, resting as in not moving. And also, like, even with some of the action things, like, cars moving around, there's almost an element of, more so like if they were pictures as opposed to real motion there. But I mean, there's still some. But there's also one panel here that I do like. And I feel it kind of also aligns with it being more static, because you don't necessarily have a certain motion in here, but it is still completely entirely clear what's going on. This panel at the bottom here, I don't know how well it'll show, but he's firing his gun, so there's a flash. He was in darkness, so the flash is illuminating. But look at how it's indicated there. It's not a gradient for the shadow. I mean, there's a little bit there, but I mean, the main thing is, like, they're just marker streaks, where it's darkness and light. So it's just these hard edges there. Which, I mean, that's kind of like in that scratchy thing, so these would be fat scratches. I forgive me. I'm sure that's not the right term. I can't think of a better way to describe it. And here, it's also, it probably won't come through on the camera, but on here, for the action, you've got action lines there that are just a bunch of kind of scratches there, but also here on the edge of this wall here, you have just, some black scratches going like that to indicate, shadow, to indicate darkness on there. It's like, it's just a style. I'm perfectly good with it. I think it looks fine. And I think it works well here is also. Yeah, I just really like how it is this, like, marker. That it's like, okay, that's where the shadow is, and it's just there or it's not. I like that. I'm tempted to use the word contrast here, but I don't think that's what quite quite the right word here. It is a contrast there, but I feel it's to another purpose than just a harder contrast, sharper contrast. Because I wouldn't necessarily describe it in other places as contrast. And actually, you know what? Again, holding it up, if we look at this panel, like we have the light shining down, and we have the same kind of thing where there's just the almost like marker going down where there's still some shadow on the wall, even though there is the light. So it's like a web of light over the wall that some of it is illuminated, but some of it is still the black marker. All right. So yeah, he went to see like the main competitor for this trucking company, talking to the guy, and I mean, yeah, I get it. Technically, what's going on here is a cliche that I really should be more upset with, but I'm not, because I mean I get it. It's cliche that, and those do typically annoy me, but by and large, I actually am enjoying this. Oh man, how would I wait? Okay, yeah. I think I know what I want to say for the recommendation for just the stories. I'll save that for a little later. But yeah, so he's talking to a guy, and he just points out that, okay, so even though you're saying, oh yeah, we don't have to worry about this, maybe that other company, they should just invest more in their security. But he points out that, you've said so little, yet you've given me so much. Beg your pardon. You pressed a button on the briefcase, and now you're sending us to a floor that requires special access. Now you do see that happen. You do see him have to use a badge to go somewhere, to go to the floor. But there was no indication of him pressing a button on a briefcase, which that I find a little annoying. It's also initially, I didn't even notice that he had done the badge. I had to look back at that, and partly that's because it's towards the gutter. It's just a little harder to see. But anyway, yeah, so it's a little cliche that it's like, oh, you're asking questions, now I need to kill you. Huh? I mean, I get it, but it's a way to get the action going and to show that, hey, yeah, there's definitely something here, and it's likely big that they feel, yeah, we can just kill this guy. Or that we must kill this guy. But it's just so... It is a cliche, but I'm not... I don't feel like holding against it, because it's... Otherwise, I am enjoying it. I find it interesting. So, yeah, he was supposed to be taken to a floor where he would then be killed, or at least abducted, by a bunch of guys in black suits. Instead, it opens the door, and the guy he was talking to is bound up there and says he got off on the first floor. So now they try to go find him. He is ready and waiting, starts, shooting back. All that, blah, blah, blah. And he is still in the building, shooting at some of the people and seems largely to be getting away. But then the ninja guy shows up who, okay, this was like the third time I recorded. Did I mention that back when we saw at the beginning of it, the truck being robbed, it was like a guy that looks kind of like a modern ninja for how he's dressed up. He also does clearly seem to have superpowers, at least some degree of super strength. But now he's just suddenly here. And it's like, okay, then to be continued. So it's like, okay, yeah, this guy's clearly has some sort of connection to this other company. Maybe it's he's working for them, or maybe it's he came to hit them. I mean, it's possible. Not that one. Here, let me use this one. Just I want to show you the ear thing. So it's, just showing his hearing here, and the fact that it's, we're zooming in on his ear, which is like, oh, it's bigger, so it's more sensitive. But also how it's red like that is part of the reason why I do think this isn't just he's practiced at listening, and so can discern this stuff, but is no, he actually does have a super hearing. So a subtle power. And that's it. It's relatively short, which, yeah, you can do other stuff tonight. I am going to give it a weak recommendation. So that's a 2, which is the first of these that is actually any recommendation. Because I did find it interesting. I did find it enjoyable. And that counts for a lot. That is what determines if I would recommend something versus not. Because it's just all the others, I got way too many technical problems with them. Some I just didn't feel connections to, and just they were boring. But this one, no, I am interested. I do feel some connection here. The cliche is a little annoying. That's part of the reason why it's not a straight recommendation. And also the fact it is so short, so it's like, I still barely know what's going on, but it's like, okay, I'm curious about what more there is going on. Unfortunately, I am going to assume that this is not, in fact, explained in this, despite how thick it is, because, unless it comes up in a different one, because we've got Gooding, Isom, Shersha, which is another Rippazine thing. Although I think that's actually labeled as Rippazine. Hang on. I think that's... I'm just trying to... The whole lack of a table of contents is quite frustrating. Okay, I guess go further. Maybe. Seriously, why do they not have a table of contents? I want to check on the name, because I have Shersha specifically identified as being Rippazine. I don't have this specifically identified as that, so that's why I want to check. Okay, there's Isom part 3. So yeah, so Shersha would be the next thing. Long is Isom 3. Holy crap. Wow. Okay, yeah. That is Isom 3. That's pretty long. Okay. So no, it's I put in Rippazine. It's not like it's actually labeled that way in this. Okay. So I should correct that in my notes. How do I want to check how I have it in another place? But okay, good. I don't need to worry about the thumbnails. So yeah. So yeah, I don't think I will get this explained unless it is picked up in something like Seosha in and we got Gooding the Polymath next, which maybe that would be a place where it can be covered. So yeah, I might basically never find out. Because I'll be honest, I know there's still so much more to go through. I haven't even gotten to the Isom ones yet, the Isom stories. But only now to one I would actually recommend, and it's a weak recommendation. So it's just making me question, would I want to, like, if something I talked about in the introduction video for this, if you watched that and forgot or haven't watched it, is that personally, if I were doing this, I would try to make sure that this continues to be available. But then I'd also do, because this is years 1 through 3, do a year 4 omnibus, a year 5 omnibus, and so on, so that somebody who just gets these can keep going instead of having to buy the individual books. Because this might be more convenient for people. Right now, yes, there's still a lot of this to go to make me feel like, oh yeah, I want more of this. But that's not why I am right now. So if this mystery isn't solved within this book, unless the trajectory changes, which is possible, I'll probably never find out. Because I don't think I would buy more. But we'll see, because there's still plenty more to go. And I do also need to add this qualifier here, though. Because I've said before that something bad is very hard to turn good. Or basically it can't be. Because if you lose somebody's interest such that they don't want to keep reading in this case, you can't. It doesn't matter if what follows is good or not. You've lost them. However, this is different since they are all separate well, they are not a single coherent story, I guess is the best way to put it. They are supposed to be consistent, but Zaylin is not Isam. Now, we do get the 3 Isam stories coming up soon, so it's like, yes. So I can't say that they are all independent stories, because technically Isam 1, 2, and 3 might not be, they might be dependent on each other. Fine. But that does give it some leeway, because it can be I did not care for Norfolka, I did not care for Zaylin, I care for this. It's fair to be in this. No, I have to keep going, because it's an omnibus. It's, or if it were an anthology. Things like that. So it is I'm going to keep going. And this is also part of the reason why I'm trying to record my recommendations for each one individually, because that will feed into how I will review the whole thing. But, yeah, but there still is that element of, will this convince me? Okay. I guess the way to put it is this. Maybe I keep reading and I find I like Isam, I like Yaira, and maybe I like Alpha Corps, but I don't care for Zaylin, I don't care for Norfolka, I don't care for Saints and Sinners, although that's not fair because that's kind of separated out. I don't care for the Horsemen. I don't care for Bloodruth, and so on. It's like maybe I don't care for those. Well, then that would mean that I would, if I were to buy anything more in the future, I wouldn't be buying those. I would only be buying the things that I specifically liked. So there can still be that. Because there are some people where, no, they just, nope, next one coming out, I'm buying that. Next one coming out, I'm buying that. Whatever it is, they're just buying that to continue. It's like, that might not be the case for them. So I guess that's how that, something that if you lose interest, you are lost kind of thing. So yeah, I know I'm not describing that very well. Forgive me. One issue with just sitting here and talking. But yeah, no, it's hopefully there will be more things I will say. It's a recommendation, week or not. Hopefully there will be more of those in the future. And hopefully won't be long before I get there. All right. Definitely enough of my rambling. See you next time for Gooding the Polymath.